And we're back. It's been a whole week, or if you're me, 3 months, but let's not dwell on that. It's James Hallock here, back with another After Effects tutorial, kicking it off in style. Today we're going to be going for an effect I think a lot of people will find really useful, a teleportation effect. And this is a shot from a Captain Franklin episode that I helped with, that I did the effects for. So here's what we're going to be going for today. Yes, that's me. Wow, I'm such a natural. So this effect really doesn't have too much to it, even though it is, pun intended, very flashy. When you get down to the bare bones structure of what actually makes it function, it's a really easy effect that I think you guys will all be able to pick up really quickly. Alright, so let's just jump into it. So really all you'll need for this is a shot of your lead actors doing whatever they're doing. There's me. Hooray! Punch. And I disappear. And you'll just need a clean plate of the background. Now we were in a rush while filming this. We were running out of sunlight. So we cut out a few steps and we arranged this shot to where this half of the screen kind of serves as a clean plate. So if you're ever in this situation, this is how you'll deal with that. So you'll grab the bottom layer, and let's turn the visibility off on this one so we can see what we're doing. And then you'll right click and you'll go up to time, freeze frame. If you scrub around, you'll see, obviously, it is one still frame. Now what we can do is we can draw a mask just around this part, because this is all we'll really need. We've got that, and we can drag this over top of the previous footage. And there you have it, folks. But here's where we run into problems. When we scrub forward, we'll find that she moves and actually goes through this line that we've cut through the shot. So all we really need to do there is animate it around. I'm not going to animate it, I'm just going to move it a little bit, but if you really wanted to take your time with this, you would want to animate it around to where she never interacts with it, but it's always hugging as close to the actor as possible, just to give you as much room as you can with your actor that's appearing or teleporting into the shot. So what we'll do here is we'll grab the regular non-freeze framed layer and we'll duplicate it by pressing Ctrl D or by going up to Edit, Duplicate. Now we'll drag this second layer over top of all of the footage. This layer will become our layer for just the teleporter. And we got really lucky that I never overlap her before I completely land. So what you're going to do with this shot is we're going to do some rotoscoping. Hooray! Everyone's favorite. So you go up here, you grab the pen tool. You can also hit G if you're a cool cat and like shortcuts. Then we'll go to where I'm completely in the shot. Let's just make a mask. And you can see that the background, there's a lot of difference between my layer and the background layer, just from a lighting standpoint. So what we'll need to do is go into the actual mask and feather it out. There we go. That way, the edge between me and the background plate becomes invisible. We're actually going to do that same thing for this background plate because it's clashing with our footage of the actress. Alright. So that looks a lot smoother now. So now what we're going to do is animate this So now what we're going to do is animate this rotoscope layer of the teleporter so that it follows him closely for about 4 frames, because that's how long you need for the teleportation effect. So we're going to go down to here, to mask path, and we're going to click the stopwatch. If you don't click the stopwatch, none of the changes you make will take effect, and you could potentially spend hours moving a rotoscope a little bit for every single frame just to realize that you didn't press the stopwatch and all of your work is for nothing because it's basically just a freeze frame at that point. So let's just go back 4 frames because this doesn't have to be perfect. It happens very quickly. All right, that looks fine. Let's grab his knee. Don't want to lose any kneecaps. Once you've got your first point and your last point, you're going to want to scrub right to the middle and see if there's any big issues. In my case, yes, there definitely are. So you just want to drag around until he's still completely included. Now that we've got all the setup out of the way, let's go to Layer, New, Solid. Just make it. Call this one Noise. Then you go to Effect, Noise and Grain, Fractal Noise. You could probably use any of these, but fractal noise is the most basic and the easiest to control. Now you're going to want to position your noise layer directly above your layer of the teleporter. And on the layer of the teleporter, you want to go under this track matte option and click Luma Inverted. See how if you mess with these settings, it kind of makes your actor look as if they're being torn apart, which will serve our purposes really well for a teleportation effect. And it'll be good times for everyone. All right, if you don't have this Luma Inverted option, go down here to this toggle switches / modes button and click that, because sometimes it's defaulted to these options, and if you click on this, it just gives you these other options, and that's just so that it doesn't stay cluttered up and doesn't have like a super long hub here. So here I want the teleporter to be completely visible. So I'll go up here and I'll lower the contrast until there's no more chunks taken out of me. Then we're going to hit the stopwatch on brightness. Go back 4 frames, up the brightness to where your actor is almost completely invisible. And then go 1 frame after that and just cut it off. So now we basically have the basic teleport effect pretty much done. If you watch, from here you're going to want to go to the frame where he's fully visible. Select both layers, go to Edit, Split Layer, and then delete the rest of the track. Now what you do is go down to your unfreeze framed layer, click on that, duplicate it 1 more time, bring it all the way up to the top, and trim it so that it starts right after this block of the teleportation effect ends. This is because we want to just have it get back to the actual footage so that when they interact with each other, we don't have to deal with any rotoscoping or anything. So what you have here is that bare bone structure I talked about earlier that really is all the teleportation effect is about. And if you really wanted to, you could call it quits here and say this is a finished effect. But we're going to go a little bit further for people who have some of the fancier plugins and whatnot. All right, let's do it. So next you're going to go to Layer, New, Solid. Call this Flare. Now I'm about to use a plugin called Optical Flares by Video Copilot. It's an extra third-party plugin, so you do have to pay for it. But if you don't have that, you can still do a more basic function of this effect by just going to generate lens flare. But you really only get 3 options, and they're all, to be honest, a little bit lame. So I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to go to Effect, Video Copilot, Optical Flares. Now, as I just said, you can use any flare you want, but I'm going to go in here and I'm going to find a nice red one, because red's my favorite color. I like you. Now, to get rid of this black background, we're going to go down here to Mode, or you can right-click and go to Blending Mode and change it to Add. For our character, he teleports using the power of his watch, so I'm going to position this on the watch and then keyframe the position, and I'm going to make it follow his watch. I won't make you guys watch me do that because it's pretty boring, so I'll just cut forwards here. Alright, we're back. So I've followed his watch all the way through until a few frames after the teleport. Now what I want to do is make it so that here its brightness is at 0. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it back and I'm going to set the brightness up pretty high. It's going to look like too much, but that's because we're not done with it yet. So then what we're going to do is we're going to go into the options of the flare. We're going to twirl down this menu, go down to transform, click on opacity, and we're going to make it so that the flare doesn't all the way appear until about 2 frames into the person appearing. So we're going to click the stopwatch there, and we're going to go back 3 frames because we want to be before he actually shows up, and we're going to set it to 0. That way, it's sort of appearing with him, which I know that light doesn't behave like this, but it just turns out looking better when you watch it in full motion. So now what we've got looks like this. Looks pretty nice, but it's still missing a little bit of punch that I'd like it to have. And so I'm going to add in one last thing. I'm going to add in a firecracker, just to sort of sell that he's popping in there. This is from the Action Essentials 2 pack, also by Video Copilot. If you cannot tell, I'm a huge fan of their stuff. But also, it does cost money, but you can find free stock footage like this on the internet, just not quite to as high of quality. So we're going to drag that in, and we're going to go to the frame right before the lens flare is fully visible. We're going to drag it right onto the center of the lens flare, and we're going to change its blending mode to Add. You can tell that made a pretty big difference. And then we're going to scale it up a little bit. I know it looks too big, but it is only there for about 1 frame. So if it was any smaller, it wouldn't quite register with your brain that anything was actually there in the first place. And it just gives it a little bit more of a punch, pun intended, by the way. So if you actually buy Action Essentials 2, they have a lot more stuff like this, and you can go through and search and find one that'll work even better, that has a little bit more staying life and a little bit more flashiness to it, if that's what you want. But for the purposes of this tutorial, I just grabbed one really fast. So here it is, the finished effect. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to write down in the comments down below any questions. I will be there and I will answer them. Also, write down there if you've got any effect in After Effects that you've been dying to know how to do that you just can't quite figure out, and I will do my very best to figure it out and make a tutorial for it just for you. Finally, if you want to actually see this finished product and you want to see this episode, I'll put a link in the description so that you can watch the entire series of Captain Franklin, including this episode. Alright guys, well that's it. I'm glad to be back. I know it's been a long time, but hopefully I'll be making a lot more of these After Effects tutorials. I know I'm going to be a lot more consistent this summer now that I'm done with school, and I'm just really excited to see what kind of fun adventures we can have on this channel and what kind of cool videos I can put out. Alright, see you later. Bye.